Subansiri Dam was originally planned by Brahmaputra Board and in 1984-85, those time. It was then entirely a detention dam at that time, flood control dam. Subsequently, in 2000, Brahmaputra Board handed over the Subansiri Dam to NHPC. And NHPC initially planned it entirely as a for hydropower to generate 2000 megawatts. At later stage, there was some public demand, due to which NHPC constituted a joint steering committee. And finally, as per recommendation of joint steering committee, they included 15-meter height of flood control storage space between full reservoir level of 205 meter and up to 190 meter. So this will provide a flood storage of 442 million cubic meter. So this is the storage space available. But to do that, now they have to run one turbine round the time, 24 hours. Otherwise, the river gets dried up. So by running one turbine, they will be releasing 250 meter cube per second of water all throughout the year in Subansiri River. So broadly, this is the planned, I will say, as flood storage. The kind of flood this time occurred in northeast of India or Assam is massive. So this time the flood really occurred for three issues. First, the snowpack as well as snow melting in Himalayan Tibetan region and starts from the month of February and it ends up somewhere in May. So now there is a temperature gradient between Himalayan Tibetan region and Bay of Bengal. So this time that temperature gradient or thermal gradient is very unfavorable, number one. Number two, there is a climate change induced phenomenon or episode called La Nina that occurs in Central Eastern Pacific Ocean. So normally what is it? The sea surface temperature, they take the average. And if in a particular time, in a particular month or year, the average is a particular value is more than the average, then it is known as El Nino. So El Nino creates a lot of drought kind of occurrence. But if it is less than the average, then it is called La Nina. So in La Nina, the rains or rainfall bearing clouds, they are always in excess. And this time, as you know, there was very heat wave going on in entire South Asia. And that heat wave has created a lot of moisture cloud going above. And that has resulted a lot of precipitation in Bangladesh and northeast of India. The third one is very important also. That is known as Indian Ocean Dipole, IOD. Indian Ocean Dipole is what it is, briefly. The sea surface temperature at the western part of Indian Ocean, that is somewhere near Arabian Sea, near Mumbai. And then the sea surface temperature at the same time in Indonesia, that is the eastern part. So this difference in sea surface temperature governs or influences the kind of monsoon going to occur. It so happened this year, the western sea surface temperature was cooler and the Indonesian side, it was warmer. And that is known as a negative IOD, negative in Indian Ocean Dipole event. So all the three together became highly adverse, which caused a massive downpour in Bangladesh, in Northeast India. Even Mausin Ram received on 17 June 1,000 millimeter of rainfall, which is almost equal to the annual rainfall of India. So these three has created a massive kind of uh, precipitation. I would like to add one more thing. There is, as you know, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and every 6-7 years they give assessment report. The sixth assessment report of IPCC was released in April this year, and it has made a very ominous forecast that the Assam, Northeast India, then Meghalaya, then some North Indian states, including Bangladesh, are likely to witness very severe kind of floods, rains, and even droughts. So keeping all this climate change induced phenomenon in mind, the flood storage of 442 million cubic meter in Subansiri seems to be quite insufficient. At the most, it can handle medium floods, at the most. But the kind of floods we have witnessed in Assam and Northeast is really this 442 million cubic meter. I don't think can make big impact. Quickly, I will just give a comparison with Tehri Dam. The flood storage of Tehri Dam, the live storage is something like almost 2,600 million cubic meter. And Tehri Dam in 2013 absorbed the massive floods coming, cloudburst floods coming from Alaknanda and Bhagirathi River within the flood storage, within the capacity of Tehri Reservoir. And that's how Rishikesh, Haridwar, Roorkee, all these places safe. So you compare that 2,600 MCM with 442 MCM of Subansiri. So I think my final bottom line, it can at the most handle some medium floods, nothing beyond that. Subansiri Dam is not yet commissioned. It is still going on. And as per government announcement, only next year, probably it's going to be commissioned. But there are 5 other dams in Northeast. They are already standing. One is Ranganadi Dam. Another one is Doyang Dam. Then Karbi Langbi Dam. Then Kapili Dam on Khan of Nipko. Then Borapani Dam. And then one dam in Bhutan built by Indian NHPC only. So all these 6 standing dams, these do not have flood storage capacity. That's very significant. So whenever there is any huge downpour in the watershed, in the catchment area, all these 6 dams, including Kurichu in Bhutan, they all release the excess flow because they don't have any designated flood storage capacity. That's one of the major shortcoming of these hydel dams. Like in Kerala, you know, Idukki, Idamalayar, and so many dams. They create a lot of floods. Every year it's creating in Kerala. Because these are hydel dams or irrigation dams, do not have any floods. Coming back to Northeast, Subansiri, or these other dams, my first suggestion is why not try to introduce flood storage capacity in the remaining 6 dams in Northeast India. Because now there are technology developed by Dr. Lempereur in France, which is known as piano cuvée technology. This technology was used in France in some 10 dams, and all these 10 dams are older than 50 years, or 60-year-old. So same reason, like in India, the climate change is creating havoc in Europe as well. So there, like I was a visiting professor in Switzerland that time, and I had some exposure. So the France government, EDF, Electricité de France, they converted all 10 dams in France, starting from 2006-07 onwards till 2015, and they have increased the spillway capacity, number one. They have increased the flood storage or storage capacity to handle this kind of floods. And this is happening in all their hydroelectric dams. Why not similar kind of approach adopted in these Ranganadi, Doyang, Karbilangpi, Kopili, Borapani, Kurichu? Why not? At least Subansiri has some small amount of flood storage. May not be too much, just to handle medium floods. But the others do not have even that. If they try to convert them, transfer them with piano QA technology, definitely there'll be huge respite to the flood situation in Assam and Northeast. Subansiri Dam, I think, is I will not say they can still at later stage. What I feel, they in flood management, in reservoir operation, there is a rule curve. Rule curve is basically in simple language, it spells out so that how much storage to be maintained. Like in case of operating a reservoir, right at the beginning of the flood, say something like in Northeast, flood comes as early as April, June, or May, June. So reservoirs should be kept empty. So how much empty it should be kept, the rule curve uh, makes it obligate, mandatory. And just after flood is over in the month of October, the reservoir is to be filled fully. So the rule curves, I don't know. I don't have data on Subansiri, to be very honest, about the rule curve. But these rule curves can be normally prepared based on optimization and simulation, reservoir simulation. So every month there can be one rule curve, or there can be a very comprehensive reservoir simulation studies backed by optimization. In optimization, it tries to generate hydropower without sacrificing flood storage. So I don't have information with me what kind of rule curve they have developed and what kind of reservoir simulation and optimization done. And normally we should do dynamic routing, dynamic flood routing. I don't have also information on what kind of studies these have been done. So this is a basic requirement for Subansiri. Especially in Subansiri, there are two other dams planned by government. One, this is the Subansiri lower. There is another one, Subansiri middle, and another one, Subansiri upper. So middle and upper, I don't know whether they're going to construct or not, and that may not be by NHPC. But those two, there is still scope to, if they are built, they can definitely have a good amount of flood control purpose measure included using piano QA or fuse plug devices technique. 10 years back, maybe in 2010, 11. Yes, I sort of, I was once called by government of Assam in 2011. And I do remember they had a ministerial committee. So I had made some suggestions that we can try to increase the flood storage, but I didn't spell out how much. So I don't want to take credit for it, but probably one of my humble suggestions that flood control should be there, and public also. The stakeholders also raised demands that there should be flood storage. And in fact, I even suggested there should be also irrigation as well, because the Assam do not have irrigation for the dry period, that is from November to May. So these aspects but issue was already the project was halfway through. And as you know, I was not involved with this project at all. I've never been involved as such. I've never been involved. So, but there is still, like as done in France. I'll give an example. Like in France, one dam was Goulers. Another name was Saint Mark Dam. Saint Mark Dam is about 40, 50 kilometers from Paris. That dam was as old as 70-year-old dam, 70 years, but very well built. So a 70-year-old dam has been now installed, provided with this technique of piano cuvée by the French engineer, Dr. Lampérier, Francois Lampérier. So even at a later stage, there is scope. They can always try to analyze, evaluate. Not right now. Let the project be commissioned. And they should very critically study, analyze to what extent it's providing flood control mitigation. If it is believed that, yes, the flood control mitigation is not appropriate, it's true for any dam in the world, there is always can be retrofitted. So this retrofitting is possible at a later date as well. But that needs some expert support. The ordinary dam engineers may not be familiar. That's the issue. And I have, as far as I guided to PhD only on piano cuvée in IIT Roorkee. And I was a consultant to Himachal Pradesh Power Corporation Limited. So in that, we conducted very comprehensive studies, physical model studies in IIT Roorkee, mathematical model studies, and with help of Himachal engineers, the piano cuvée was constructed in this project, whose name is Saurakullu Hydroelectric Project, 120 megawatts. So what I'm trying to drive home the point that nothing is lost, even at later stage, even post-construction, it can be done. This further. But that needs very critical study to what extent the existing flood control provisions are effective.